Today for lesson 4.2, we're learning how to write equations in slope-intercept form. So the first question is asking us to write an equation of a line that passes through the given point and has the given slope. So if we're going to write it in slope-intercept form, we need to use y equals mx plus b. And our slope is 3, so we're going to plug that in for m, and then we're going to use the point to plug in to find b. So I'm going to plug in 5 for y, because that's the y coordinate, and negative 2 for x, since that's the x coordinate, and I'm going to solve for b. So I would need to add the 6 to get b by itself, so b would equal 11. And we're asked to write an equation, so our final answer should have the slope that was given to us and the b value that we just found. So it should look like this. Here's another one where we would use the slope first, and then we're going to plug in the point after we've put in the slope, and we're going to put the y coordinate in for y and the x coordinate in for x and solve for b. So we're going to add the 4 to get b by itself, and I get b equals negative 3. So if we put it all together to write our equation, we have y equals negative 1x minus 3. Here we're again asked to write an equation that passes through each pair of points. So this time they're not giving us the slope and 1 point, they're giving us 2 points and asking us to write an equation in slope-intercept form. So since we're not given the slope, that's what we need to find first, because we need to plug in a value for m that we find and a value for b so that we have our equation. So the slope, we need to subtract the y values over subtract the x values. So we get negative 20 over 4, which simplifies to negative 5. So I'm going to plug in the slope, and then the process continues to be the same as the last two examples. But the difference between this problem and the last two examples is that we had to first find the slope if we're not given it. So we can pick either point here to plug in for y and for x to solve for b. I'll just pick the first point. And we put our y coordinate in for y and our x coordinate in for x. And we're trying to solve for b. So I'm going to subtract the 5 from 12, and I get 7. So if I put it all together, I have y equals negative 5x, which was my slope, plus 7, which is the b value. And we're going to do the same thing again. So find the slope first to plug in to our equation. So the slope is the y values minus the y values on the top, and then the x values minus the x values on the bottom. So I need to simplify that to negative 2 over 3. So that's our slope. We're going to plug it in for m. And now we need to solve for b. by picking a point. So we're going to pick either point. Actually, I'm going to use the one with 0. That makes it easier. And I plugged in 0 for y, which is our y coordinate, and -7 for x, which was our x coordinate, and I'm solving for b. So I'm just going to get b by itself by subtracting the 14 over 3. So 0 minus 14 over 3 is going to give me -14 over 3. And I can just keep it as a fraction. So I'm going to plug in now my slope, which was -2/3, in for m, and my b value goes in for b. So that would be my equation. Now we're asked to write a linear equation from the word problem. So if it asks us to write a linear equation, we're usually assuming that's going to be slope-intercept form if they don't tell us. So we're going to use y equals mx plus b. Now it says the weekly pay here is represented with t, and the d represents deliveries. So instead of y and x, we're going to use t and d. We just need to figure out which depends on the other. So if he's getting paid for his deliveries, is his weekly pay going to depend on how many deliveries he makes, or vice versa? Well, I think his pay is going to depend on, the deliveries he's making, because that's what he's doing to get paid for. So that means the t is going to be our y, and the d is going to be our x. So this is the same. These are the same equation, it's just using different variables. So now we need to plug in, we need to find our slope, which is the m, and the y-intercept. So if we look back at the problem, it says, in addition to his weekly salary, Ethan is paid $16 per delivery. And then it says last week he made 5 deliveries, and his total pay was $215. So even though they're not clearly telling you that this is the ordered pair, the 5 and the 215, that is actually representing the ordered pair that they're giving us. And we're going to use that at some point to find b. Then we're looking for a rate for slope. So a rate usually has the word per in it, or for each, something like that. And so this says $16 per delivery, so that is going to be our slope or our rate. So I'm going to plug that in first. Now I need to use the ordered pair that they gave me, which was 5 deliveries for $215. We decided the cost was our y value, that was the dependent, and the deliveries was our x. So that's how I set that up, x comma y. But I'm going to plug in my y coordinate for y now, and my x coordinate for x. And I'm going to solve to get b by itself. So I get have to subtract the 80, and I would get b equals 135. So my equation altogether would be y equals 16x plus 135. We just want to write this using the t and the d, so we replace the t with the y with the t, and we already knew to replace the x with the d. So my final equation that meets all the criteria is this one. And then here it says use the equation to predict how much money Ethan will earn in a week if he makes 8 deliveries. we're just going to put in 8 for D. And this is called linear extrapolation, when you're using the equation to predict values that are not necessarily in the data. So 16 times 8 plus 135 is going to give us our answer. Which is 128 plus 135, which is going to give us 263. So for 8 deliveries, he makes $263.